gorgeous day.
Yes,
Man,
it is.
beautiful outside. Good way to start a Monday.
Got
Are you in your
people-
office, Peggy, or are you home?
I'm home.
Are you? I'm downtown. It looks great.
Yeah.
Some leaves are turning, which really just makes me really sad.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a tree in our backyard turning already too.
Oh my goodness. I don't see anything yet.
Yeah, if I
We've got
change
two
my
people here that are having
background,
trouble connecting for some reason, so we're gonna just wait a second, see if they can get in.
Okay.
Oh, one of them got in.
people can see the trees and the square changing.
Oh, there we are.
See some
Yeah,
of the
I was
trees
just
are
I was
over
just
here.
down at our office on the square. Gosh, it's last Thursday, and I didn't see that. So that must
Yeah.
be just happening.
These,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Summer to last forever.
Oh, right. And we've had a beautiful one.
Yes.
Been so fortunate.
All right, well, we want to welcome everyone here this morning. Thank you for joining our Monday webinar with Dane by Local. I'm Colin Murray, Executive Director with Dane by Local. Glad to have you here this morning. Just a couple of brief announcements that I wanted to make before we go into our program for the day. One of those is Black Restaurant Week is off and running. Started, I believe, yesterday. It runs through the 23rd. So there are a number of restaurants that are involved in participating with that. You can go to MadisonBlackChamber.com and they will have a list of the restaurants that are available there that are participating. Make sure that we support these businesses. Certainly it's crucial for them to remain open. We need to support them for that to happen. So please participate and enjoy these various restaurants all over the city as we celebrate Black Restaurant Week. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the Biz Awards. This is an event that Dane by Local has done for 5 years. And when I was at Isthmus previous to that, we did it for a number of years at Isthmus as well. Recognizing local businesses that are doing great things in the community and with Dane by Local. I would say this year, we've got even more businesses than ever that will qualify for nominations in recognizing great things that they're doing in the community. You know, crisis always brings out the best in us, doesn't it? And that seems to be the case this year, that we're seeing more and more businesses just really stepping up and doing what they need to help support other businesses and the community at large. And we want to recognize those things. So we'll be doing that October 15th virtually, but we need nominations to recognize those businesses. There are 10 different categories that we've set up. They're all brand new categories this year. We changed it around a little bit, freshened it up a little bit. So if you have a business that you would like to recognize, locally owned and operated, go to our website, danebylocal.com. Right there on the homepage, you'll see the link for nominating one of those businesses, and you can take care of that right away. It's pretty quick and easy to do that, so feel free to do so. And self-nominations are welcomed. Don't feel that you have to do it just for someone else. You are welcome to nominate yourself as well with Dane by Local. So those are the two things that I have. I will turn things over to Peggy Gunderson of Strategic Brand Marketing to introduce our speakers for today. Peggy.
Thanks, Colin. Great to be with everyone today. Hope you had a good weekend. Looking forward to a fresh start to a new week. Just a couple quick updates. Last week we had Congressman Mark Pocan on, and as you know, he didn't have a lot of specifics about the HEROES Act, even though we believe that there will be some help for small businesses. They have recessed through Labor Day, which is frustrating for him, he says, and most likely will not be coming back into session until after that time. One message, though, that both he and Tammy Baldwin have asked is to please give them feedback on specific things that are happening in your businesses relating to the Postal Service. We covered that last week, where there are, the 89 semi-loads full of mail at the airport. There's Amazon boxes on pallets and all those kinds of things. But he's asked, particularly Mark on his Facebook page is asking for feedback from everybody in terms of what's going on in your business. If you've pivoted to online and you're having issues getting orders out through the post office, let him know specifically what those are. So any feedback we can give him from our area will help him help us. So please don't be shy, reach out to them through email. You can Google each of their addresses. Or through their social media pages. But it's really important that we give them some, boots on the ground information with that. So with that, I'm excited today. We have two of our favorite partners with us. First, Bonnie Koenig, who's been with us from the very get-go, helping us. She's just been our lifeline getting through the COVID, how we pivot in our business to keep our employees and our staff safe. She looks like she's modeling her mask.
Actually, I had somebody wanting something from me, and I
nicely done.
Webinar.
But thank you so much. She's been a real help to us as we launch our PSA campaign. She's been a real great guidance in helping us get that message out. So thank you again for your time being here today. We are looking forward to an update from you. And then also Deb Archer, from President of Destination Madison, as well as Rob Gard, who's PR and communication for Destination Madison. And since we last saw Deb, she has received a new title, haven't you?
I have.
What's that title?
I am grandma officially 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think you were just waiting for that phone call. I believe you were sitting in your car ready to hit the start button and take off at any moment when we caught up with you. But congratulations. She's just adorable.
Thank you.
It looks like you got to spend a little time nuzzling up on her, huh?
It's magic.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Never had any idea.
And good morning to Rob. I know Rob is here with us as well. Let's see, there he is. We can see him. Just maybe unmute yourself if you want, Rob, just so people can see you and know who you are.
Good morning, everyone. Apologize, it looks like I'm having some streaming issues out here in the wilds of southern Oregon. It's 20 miles from downtown and significant megabyte per second issues. So you're kind of freezing and breaking up, but yeah, I'm happy to be here and kind of talk about some of the efforts that our PR and branding team have put together over the summer and planning for the fall to help generate some excitement and interest in all the great things we have in Madison.
Good. We're glad you're here, and we look forward to hearing those. And I know there's folks do have questions. If you do have questions as we move through this, as always, if you put them in the chat box for us, we'll keep an eye on that. And just in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and ask those questions for you. I do want to start off with Bonnie and just kind of get an update on where we're at. I just got a call this morning from my youngest who sent her two sons off to school this morning. They live in near Memphis, Tennessee, and a big crocodile moment, the youngest going into first grade, just a real different experience. So as we look at that time of year, parents and grandparents concerned about sending their kids safely, what I'm curious is, as well as your update, could you also give us an idea of what does it look like throughout Dane County in terms of the percentage of kids going back to school in person and those that are doing online learning?
So as far as our update, you know that we have had no order changes. We still stay in the same place that we are. And we will be doing another 2-week look back today with our data snapshot to determine if we can do some forward movement. And we've been working very closely with the schools and the reopening of such. And each school is going to have to decide how they're going to be moving forward with the information they have from DHS and Public Health Madison and Dane County. And many are from what I understand, are doing a mix of on-site and virtual learning. And I there is a staff of people here that have worked closely with DHS and all the schools and pretty much have been working with them on a daily basis, talking through all the operational plans and safety measures that need to be in place when doing the learning at the school site. So it will be something that we keep a pulse on daily, public health and the school systems, and adjust accordingly when needed. But right now, truly our data snapshot, each time we look, it is getting better. It really shows that wearing the face coverings and the things that we've been doing in our community are working. And that gives me great hope for our near future with school starting and in support of our businesses in our community.
That is good news. We sure could use that. Pivoting over to, the UW students coming back. And I heard on the news over the weekend, there were a couple of schools around the country where kids were already back, students were already back. And, they had some outbreaks, and there's the concern. And in my mind, I'm just thinking about dorm life, right? Like you're just basically, everybody's in one pool. Is there a plan in place, and how will the UW students be monitored?
The UW has an extensive plan for safety and testing of the students, but we will also be monitoring closely with our outbreak data and cluster data, and be working closely with the UW, and learning from that data and adjusting accordingly. To say that we're not thinking about it would not be truthful. Full transparency, we're concerned too, and we're going to be looking closely at that and keeping a pulse on that.
Does public health provide the testing, or is UW on their own for their own testing?
UW is going to be doing their own testing.
Their own, okay. And I want to bring Deb in for a quick question. So, since we've last spoke, UW Athletics has decided to postpone their fall sports. And Bonnie, I would assume that your department would agree with that move. And, obviously as business owners, this is going to have just a tremendous economic impact. Even though we all know it's safe, it still hurts. Do you have information that you could share in terms of what that economic impact is?
We do actually, and either Rob or I, one of us will put up a link to, UW did an economic impact study in 2019. They do one every few years. And their last one said that the total economic impact from a single football game is $16 million. Wow. So it's everything from the revenue that's generated for the actual athletic department in the university, but it's food, restaurants, gas stations, retail, event planners. And then, they also figure in things like, what do people spend on tailgating? So it's not just about what's happening in the stadium. It's the entire experience that people have surrounding a UW football game. And it's, the university wrestled very hard with this, and we have a couple of two of the big fives have decided to postpone, but 3 of the big fives at this point are still, talking about having football. And I think as hard as it is, the economics are sort of winning the game. I think that it had to be just an excruciating decision. I think that it's hard for everybody on this Zoom for various reasons. It's painful when we've just watched this spigot turn off in terms of hospitality and visitors as of March 15th. The first domino that fell was WIA boys basketball. And what we're seeing is around the country, though, is really stark contrast of, very, very small gatherings being allowed to very large gatherings being allowed. And I know we want to have a conversation with Bonnie about, in the next, as things go forward, what are sort of, then I hate to use the word trigger in a word, but, what sort of things could mean that we might be able to come to some agreement about how certain events can be safely executed. It's more difficult for certain types of events, but I think it's really important that we really sit down and look at what the experts are doing and how things can be designed and see what we might be able to increase some sort of different types of events and start getting some people back into our community and get some economic impact increases into the community. I think it's particularly before fall sets in, what sort of adjustments might be able to be made.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. And I have heard some business owners considering, renting the blow up screens and showing some of the old Badger games and safely social distancing while you're doing. And I think those are all really great ideas if you have a Breeze Stevens Field, or I know that they've been doing movies over at Warner Park. That could be fun where everybody stays in their car, but yet you can order from local restaurants and bring it with you. So something like that I think could work. And it's all done safely. I don't know if we have a ton of spaces that could do that, but I would also imagine business owners, restaurant owners could do that, in their outdoor spaces, possibly. I know there's some noise ordinances to deal with there, but those are all I think are really good ideas. Because I do think people are craving sports, they're craving interaction. Bonnie, and I don't know if this is something that your department handles, but as we talk about these kinds of things and the loss of, football is right, just our fall passion. There's a mental, I don't know what you call it. People are upset, right? They're like, it gets into your head that, gosh, this whole season's gone. And those of us that look forward to it and miss the people that we interact with for those events, how does your department deal with that, with people dealing with the mental aspect of this?
We are concerned about that because that is our mental health and well-being is a public health issue as well. So that is certainly something that is of concern, and we have to weigh that out with what we're trying to do here, which is to prevent deaths, right? And to prevent the spread of COVID. So it is a balancing act. And I just want to acknowledge what Deb's saying. I have a meeting scheduled within the next week with leadership to talk about some ideas and ways that we can support businesses, especially businesses that really rely upon, that are venue or event type businesses that rely upon larger numbers in the mass gathering on the orders in order to be profitable. And other businesses like restaurants and bars that are really restricted right now with percent capacity. In discussing about ways that we can use the data and the information we know and the new things we're learning about the spread of COVID and ways that we can support those businesses. I'm very hopeful that our metrics, they've been trending well. They're getting better. We don't have, we still had a red light in the epidemiology bucket, but our cases per day are going down. And so I'm very hopeful. And with that, those metrics lining up, I also want to begin the conversations now so we can be prepared for ways that we can support businesses. So some of the ideas that I have on the table are similar to what Milwaukee's done. Milwaukee has a risk control plan that restaurants and bars are able to fill out and submit, and then they can have, in Milwaukee, they can have up to 100% capacity. So I'm not saying that that's what we're going to do, but looking at that model and idea, is there something we can take from that and in ways that we can implement that and use that within our community to support higher mass gathering numbers and percent capacity at commercial spaces where they have risk control plans in place. So that's just one of the many ideas that's on the table, but I really believe that businesses know, like, that it's better than public health. Businesses know their business and they know ways that they can be safe, and they're ready to work with us and do those things. And so I'm really working hard behind the scenes to have those conversations with leadership so that we can do that when our metrics allow us to. And one of the pieces of data that I've specifically requested is when we're doing our contact tracing and we're looking at clusters and outbreaks, and they're happening at certain spaces. What I want to know are those spaces businesses? or are they private residential spaces? And if they're businesses, did they have implemented the policies that we required? Because my hypothesis is for the businesses that are doing that they are much safer places, and our data should show that. And then it would also support the idea of having these risk control plans in place for businesses that are willing to take those extra steps, like they're doing all those great things with the policies that are required, and they're incorporating some additional safety precautions.
And do you see this as kind of a blanket plan, or are you saying it would depend on the business? Would each business need to kind of submit their risk plan and get approval in order to move forward on it? Do you think it would look more like that?
You know, to be honest with you, since this idea concept, I don't really know what it will look like. I foresee it being something that we would require of businesses. There's no way we have the capacity to approve plans, nor are we in the business of approving plans. We would basically put out what the requirements are, just as we have with the business requirements. And then only unless we get a complaint or something like that would we be following up, but businesses would be required to have that. But I think there could be a nice marketing concept around it too, because so many businesses are doing so many great things to be safe. And in the midst of the media that's happening in the last few weeks, it's almost as if our community has bought into this narrative that businesses are bad. And as business liaison for public health, I'm here to say right now, loud and clear, that is not the case. Businesses have taken on a lot of additional expenses. They have spent a lot of time retraining staff, and they are working very, very hard to make their spaces safe. And I think we could use this opportunity to say, listen, if you have these risk control plans in place, let's put you on our website and showcase you and show these businesses are doing above and beyond to keep our community safe. There's so many of them. There's many, many more businesses that are in that category than the other. And so I see this as being, you know, a way to celebrate the good that's happening in our community and to support our businesses.
We're so lucky to have you. And we know that you are behind the scenes, always looking for what we can do, but obviously keeping us safe is the most important thing. So thank you for your great ideas, and thanks for going to bat for us. We look forward to hearing what we may be able to do, because I do think it's important, especially while, you know, we were just talking about the leaves changing, but boy, anything we can do now before, you know, we get deep into fall and winter where we need to be outside and enjoying these. So these are really all great ideas. And I do like the partnership, you know, between small businesses, Destination Madison, and I think that there's something there. Hopefully our numbers will continue to stay in check, right?
Yes.
Yes. I want to just go back on one thing, and these are just some questions coming in. I want to layer. Someone's asking, do we yet know how viruses affect kids, Bonnie?
We're getting some new information on that. There was some belief that kids were, that the virus was not as concerning for kids, but we're finding that's not always the case. And the other thing that we always say in public health is we only know what we know right now. We don't know what the long-term effects are of COVID. And we want to be careful to say, well, you know, this category of individuals are less risky than others, because it's a novel virus. We don't know what the long-term effects are of this virus. And I think all of us need to be taking this virus seriously, no matter what age group we're in.
Mm-hmm. I saw an interview last week with, I believe he's the cardiologist for the Seattle Seahawks, as well as the University of Washington, talking about how athletes are affected by this as well, kind of going back to the football season and the athletic season. You know, it's not just that they may get COVID, but this virus can do some things to the heart that they believe. Again, I think it's all still new information, but you know, when Barry Alvarez talks about not having a season, not just to keep the fans safe, but these athletes also, if the virus gets into someone, it could have long-term effect on the heart. And that would mean these student athletes. So I think it's smart, that decision, while it stings business-wise, is smart. I don't think anybody would disagree with the desire to keep them safe. Have you heard any studies about that?
I mean, there's certainly studies that are happening right now. We want to be careful when that information comes in. In public health, we usually take some time before we broadcast out widely information on that because we need to have enough research to make sure that that's accurate information. But yes, we're looking at that all the time. And I think, again, it goes back to we just don't know. And as we're learning more and learning about what the long-term effects may be on all of us, it just shows that this is, that our community is doing the right thing by the orders right now, and we need to continue to do the right things by wearing the face coverings and physical distancing to prevent the spread of COVID. It's a serious disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just for everyone in the chat box, and thanks, Rob, he has put the 2019 economic impact summary for sports. There's a link there, which is a great resource just in terms of information. Deb, do you know at all how the UW Athletics came to this decision? Was it more of like a Big Ten decision, obviously with Barry weighing in? Do you know what that process was?
No, only what everybody else has read. I think it's not just athletic directors, it's the presidents and the chancellors of each university that actually get involved in the final decision.
Mm-hmm. One question, Bonnie, is public health working with any large employers on guidance for learning pods for their employees or families? Any additional resources or contacts we should be aware of that can help employers assist their employees, I think she means who are parents. So learning pods. I'll to be honest, I'm not familiar with this. Are you?
I am not familiar with it, but I'm writing it down and I'm going to find out some more information on that. And I think from what I'm hearing in that, parents that have to juggle children doing maybe part-time in person and part-time virtual and navigating that while also being present for a job can be challenging. And what kind of support do we have for those workers and employers of workers like that? Is that the question?
That's how I understand it. Yep.
Okay.
So guidance for learning pods for their employees and families. So folks that are parents.
Okay.
Boy, that just has to be a big struggle, I'm sure. You're doing your full-time job because that's how you survive, right? And now you're also tutoring, and I just think that's it's going to be a challenge for a lot of folks, but we will get through it. Just reading another question. It's to Deb. I think you may have already answered this, but maybe you still have other ideas. But what ideas are you aware of that have come out of the postponement? Who's pivoting and how are they doing it?
Postponement of the football?
Yeah, postponement of the athletic season, I believe.
Honestly, haven't heard anything other than what you had talked about potentially projecting, broadcasting games, trying to create some sort of atmosphere. But again, working within the public health guidelines of, what can you do appropriately in which appropriate spaces. And this made me, and Bonnie, you and I haven't had a chance to chat, but one of the places that I know has not been able to do any events more than, I think it's 25 or 50 people outdoors is the rooftop of Monona Terrace. And I walked on the roof there the other day and I thought, oh my gosh, there were like 5 people up on this gigantic roof taking pictures. And I thought, what a perfect space for a wedding of say 50 people or even a funeral or something where, this is where I know, Bonnie, you're trying to pivot to say, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, because Garver Feed Mill can have a group in their parking lot and yet the beautiful rooftop of Monona Terrace is not, hosting any of these things. So how can we really appropriately and correctly make sure things could happen in a really safe way, because we know Monona Terrace would do it and would do it well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we saw that while we were boating one day too, just completely empty, and it's a beautiful space. So maybe Deb, Bonnie, while you're taking your plan in for small businesses, we could add that into the mix.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It's a great space. And
it's on my list. It is on my list. And I am very aware of that and looking for ways that I can support those spaces.
Awesome. I want to ask Rob to jump back in here. So, you know, obviously with this huge $16 million per game loss in revenue, let's look to what we can do. You know, it is, I hate the saying, but I'm going to say it. It is what it is, right? Where we're at, we have to deal with it. But can you just speak a little bit about some ideas that you have regarding football?
Yeah, sure, Peggy. I'm going to take a step back before I jump into those ideas, but from the beginning of this pandemic situation, we quickly understood that our number one visitor, so to speak, is the local resident and people who live, you know, within a short drive of Madison. So as an organization, we shifted our focus to that local and drive market audience, because you know we wanted to keep our businesses and restaurants and attractions supported as best we could. So and as part of that, what we've done is we've provided kind of framework ideas that individual organizations or businesses can feed into. For example, we have our Explore Outdoor Madison campaign, which is run this summer. So when the football announcement came down, we were looking at some different options we could do to provide that same type of framework for other entities to follow, and including it could be, you know, the Downtown Bid or Monona Business Association, you know, different entities. One of them is kind of looking at football Saturdays as its own Explore Dane County kind of game. So breaking that down into 4 quarters. Your first quarter on Saturday is the kickoff. Here are some breakfast ideas. The second quarter, you know, you take a pass by a great retail shop and you make a great score there. Third quarter is you're wide open in some of our great parks or on the lakes. Fourth quarter is crunch time, some dinner ideas and some fun things with that. And then, of course, being here in Madison, our 5th quarter, you know, what kind of fun can we have to wind that Saturday down? And it's a concept that we are going to build out some more and hopefully have that again as a framework that other entities can put together for their businesses that they represent. Along with that, you know, working on some ideas for backyard tailgate packages. So let's say you are going to get together with some of your regular tailgate friends to watch an old Badger game somewhere, or just to sit in a big yard or a park. What businesses can we pull together that would be able to provide some good tailgate packages for those experiences? So, you know, like the rest of us, we are adapting in the moment and just trying to see what we can do to bring local people together to support, you know, our friends, our neighbors, and places we love.
I love that idea. That would be so much fun. It would give us something to do. And you could do it, you know, what's the season? 16, what is it? 16 games? Like, it wouldn't matter if it's home or away. It'd always be home, right?
Exactly.
It's a home game every Saturday. I love the idea. That's amazing.
I don't know if any of you are familiar with, and we can share some of our videos with you that we're just coming out with, but picnicking has been a big thing that we've pushed. And having deliveries, what Rob was referring to, where you could have a backyard thing with, you know, sort of your pod and your quarantine group, or, you know, you're sitting in a park and where you can have things delivered with partners that'll deliver food, and of course food delivery services. So you can bring your own, or you could, you know, support local businesses by, you know, having things catered.
That's a great idea. And it's great for restaurants, or even, you know, when you, Rob, were talking about breakfast, you know, even if you're a bakery, you could put a kit together. I mean, this could be really amazing. That would encompass all kinds of businesses, the retail folks. I love this idea. Great job on that. I think that could be a whole lot of fun. Deb, a question for you. Pardon me. Try it again. Will multi-year event contracts add on a year, or is 2020 lost?
It's a great question. So the majority of the events that were booked for 2020, at this point, a small portion of them have rebooked. The multi-year events like CrossFit, we were already talking about adding a multi-year, another year. So we hope to do that. We're in those conversations. Ironman likely will roll and add another year. Next year will be a big one because it'll be their 20th anniversary. So it's really an important one for Ironman, and we really want to blow it out with Ironman next year. So hopefully that will come to pass. Multi-year events, I think we will add. I think it's the one, you know, a lot of conventions rotate from city to city to city. In some cases, we had a couple of groups who, like the Golden Age Games, who were willing to push their future sites a year to bring it back here next year. So Golden Age Games, which was due here this summer for, it's an Olympic style event for veterans. It's a large event. They will come in 21. Not every organization was able to do that because they had contracts signed with other destinations. So our team's still working at trying to rebook them as quickly as we can, but sometimes it's 4 or 5 years. That's where a lot of our sales team has really spent their time, and then finding dates and finding space, looking forward here in the community. The conventional forecast now with our industry is that it'll be 2023 or 2024 before we will see visitor numbers and hotel occupancy numbers as we did in 2019. That's the forecast.
Wow. I didn't realize it'd be that far out.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's the combination of organizations trying to get their footing again, and also consumer confidence. You know, I just had a trailer come across my screen this morning about how airlines activity was up and now it's down again. There's just consumer confidence is all over the place, and organizations, you know, to make an investment to host a big event, that's a huge investment. And so until they believe they can actually get people to come appear live, you know, they're hesitant to make commitments. I think the next few years and probably long into the future, we'll start seeing a lot of hybrid events. Now that things can be done virtually, a lot of organizations, trade shows, conferences will have a live component and a virtual component, giving people a choice. So it's also known that a lot of large events, the numbers will be compressed because you won't have as many people showing up live. And it's also a product of organizations and budgets. You know, you have companies that are have been obviously fiscally hurt, and so to send people out to make business calls, either sales, business travel, or to send people to conferences, conventions, it's a budgetary issue where organizations and entities won't have that sort of money to send people. And so it's going to really be, for the event industry, it's going to take some time to rebound.
Yeah. And also when you speak of sponsorships, it's certainly, you know, putting the money out there and needing that ROI, but it's even having the money to begin with. I don't know of any industry that has not been affected. And the larger, I mean, there are some that are having their best years just because of the nature of what they do. People sprucing up their yards, those businesses are doing well, but it's to have the funds to even sponsor it. And they need that time to recoup, I would imagine, which would make sense here for, you know, a good 2 to 3 years down the road. So will you then, Deb, you know, you'll move forward and look at 2021 as possibly getting these events back. You'll have this combo of live and virtual. So we'll start out slowly. And as the years progress, we hope and expect that things will get better.
Correct. The other thing we'll be doing is pivoting, is we'll be looking at working on trying to get some smaller events, some more local, regional, state events that our organization normally would not invest time in. That's normally the hotels do that on their own, but hotel staffs have been so compressed. So we will be working with our hotels to supplement their efforts on smaller things. The other thing we want to do with local corporations and organizations is we want to impress upon them, keep their meetings here. don't take their meetings out of state. Don't take their meetings to other cities. Let's keep, you know, CUNA Mutual and AmFam, and let's keep their corporate meetings here for the foreseeable future, so we can make our economy strong. And if they're bringing people, having people travel, let's have them travel to Greater Madison.
Yes, absolutely. Safer and just better all the way around. You know, I keep going back to what you had said when this started, you know, that you said it'll be fall of 2021, which sounds like about right. Bonnie, does that seem, in my mind, that seems to line up? Does that from a public health standpoint seem to, you know, to line up in terms of, you know, when we have a vaccine and how we'll distribute it and how we'll know it works? And do you think that fall of 2021 seems to be about the right time frame for us looking to get back to some of these events in a small capacity?
Sorry about it, I had muted myself. I do think that is a good time frame. It allows that buffer time in case there's some situations that occur that, you know, in distributing the vaccine to all in our community, that takes a little bit longer than we anticipated. So I think that that is a very reasonable time, and my hope is that it would even be sooner than that. But I think that that is a great, you know, when I hear that date, I think that that's something that is very realistic.
That's great. It's good to have that in front of us. I mean, to know that we can pivot and we will pivot. We'll find a way, because that's what business owners do. But we'll find a way to get to that point and get through this the best that we can. A note to everybody, if you look in the chat box, Rob has, and thanks Rob for putting up that link, but there's a link to the picnic campaign in the partnership that Deb mentioned. So go ahead and make sure that you save these links and click on these. These are just wonderful resources. And thanks to Destination Madison for providing those for us. A question for Bonnie. How do you see the next few months coming into the holiday seasons on how businesses can safely pivot through the season? Are pickups and drop-offs? I mean, I think what we're hearing is a lot of businesses are going, you know, online, right? That maybe they didn't have a website before. Even if you're a service-based businesses, you're doing more Zoom calls with clients. Are those still the best ways to go, kind of place your order online, pick it up in a safe manner, or contactless delivery? Are there other things that we're not looking at here that are good ideas?
I think those ideas that you're sharing right now are the ones that if any business has opportunity to continue doing that during our emergency response, we want them to do so, because that is our safest choice in doing business. And I do know that we're talking about ways that we can continue the outdoor service at restaurants, maybe by having tents and heaters and different things like that. We're navigating through that with some discussions this week on the Streetery program. But we do want, you know, as the public health department, we want to be right there with businesses as they pivot through this emergency response and adjust their business. And now approaching fall and winter, we have to adjust to the colder weather and what that looks like. But throughout the entire remaining of the emergency response, anytime that we can continue to work remotely to the extent possible, anytime that we can continue the curbside and delivery services, that's always going to be the safest option.
That's great. And that seems to work well, again, no matter what business you have, you know, and if you haven't started looking to your online resources, and Colin and at Dane by Local has a couple of folks that have stepped forward to give really reasonable rates for adding online to your websites, but you may want to reach out to Colin and Dane by Local to find out who those are. But you can add those, and then you're just adding pickup and delivery. And quite frankly, it's just a good idea to have in your business anyway. So now's a good time to do that before the holidays come, and just a great way to keep people safe. So it looks like we've come to the end of our time here. We've gotten through everybody's questions. I just want to say thanks so much, Bonnie, Deb, Rob, for all you're doing to work, not only just working together, but to helping small businesses. All of these things are, the more ideas we can come up with, the better. So really excited about your partnership. And Bonnie, as you work through your plans, if you could, we'd love to have you back and talk more about them and see how we can incorporate as many small businesses into those plans as possible.
That would
Thanks
be great.
again, everyone. Colin, is there anything else on your end?
I think that wraps us up for today. Join us again next Monday, 10 o'clock here at a business webinar, and have a good week, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.